From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Melinda Akilami.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, voters in Osun State turn out in their numbers to choose a governor to pilot their affairs for the next 4 years. Poll adjudged peaceful. Some candidates in the Osun State governorship election commend conduct of the poll, while others raise concern over vote trading and its implication for the country's future. 2 Catholic priests kidnapped in Kaduna less than 2 weeks after another priest, Reverend Father Emmanuel Silas, was kidnapped but later released in Karu local government area of the state. And thousands of firefighters battle wildfire in Portugal, Spain and France amid deadly heat wave across Europe.
And on business news tonight, NEPC and Sweden sign agreement to allow easy penetration of non-oil Nigerian exports within the West African region.
On sports news tonight, Argentina's Sebastian Baez pulls off an upset at the Swedish Open after defeating world number 7 Andrei Rublev 6-2, 6-4 to reach the final.
It's now a waiting game for voters in Osun State who trooped out today to exercise their franchise in the state's governorship election. 15 candidates are taking part in the poll, which took place across 3,763 polling units and has been adjudged peaceful. The polls had opened at 8:30 a.m. with many residents turning out at various centers to check their names and go through the accreditation process before casting their ballots.
The voting exercise in Osun State for the governorship election gets off to an early start. In various areas across the state, residents come out in their large numbers to check their names at the different polling units. It's time to cast the ballot, after which some of the voters share their thoughts on the process.
So far, the process is credible, transparent, and peaceful, and we have not recorded any major incidents that could mar election. Our people are conducting themselves peacefully, and they are abiding with the law and procedure put down by the Independent National Electoral Commission.
While the turnout includes the young and the middle-aged, an elderly voter says the exercise has been calm.
I said that if somebody who is performing well, people will vote for. INEC has more developed than olden time. Now, you know, they've entered into electronic method. In olden days, we had problems of you just vote anyhow. You can vote even two places, 2 times. But this time around, we are very grateful to INEC.
Meanwhile, an official of the Independent National Electoral Commission is confident that all will work well.
So far, so good. I think the worst story I've heard in terms of the malfunction of beavers is in respect of elderly people that could not pass accreditation, either with the fingerprints or the facial. But because we are talking among ourselves, we have been able to also see how we can manipulate, you know, the machine. So the elderly man that came out here was based on the advice I got from one of the national commissioners that we should take him out of the arena, you know, and that has happened in many cases, and he simply passed the accreditation.
APC, PDP.
As the voting exercise gives way to sorting and counting, all eyes will now be on the electoral umpire to deliver the result of the winner of the governorship election.
APC.
Some of the governorship candidates in the election have been speaking on the conduct of the exercise. The APC candidate and incumbent governor, Adeboyega Oyetola, and the PDP candidate, Adedamola Adeleke, commended the conduct of the exercise as well as the turnout of voters after casting their ballot. On their part, the Labour Party and Accord Party candidates, Lasun Yusuf and Akin Ogumbi, raised concerns about vote buying in the election and its implication on the country's future.
Voters on the queues as they exercise their franchise on election day in Osun State. The electorate are not the only people voting. Candidates of the parties are also voting and getting a feel of the exercise. In Ede, the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Ademola Adeleke, arrives to cast his ballot. For him, it appears that the electoral umpire, INEC, has upped its game.
I think INEC has performed very well, because when they were trying to use my fingerprint, it didn't work. And they used my face, bam, and it worked. So that means that they have really improved. Yeah.
So what feelings are you getting from other voting areas, sir?
Well, the feelings I'm getting that everywhere is calm for now. And I hope it will stay like that.
And you are confident of your chances on the ballot?
Big time. Very, very confident. My people love me. Osun people love me. I love you, Osun. Thank you for
very much.
Thank you.
From Ede to Lobu in Irekpo Odun local government area, home of the Labour Party candidate. After casting his vote, he raised concerns about vote buying.
The only thing I know for now is that I've just cast my vote. It took me about 10 minutes to do so, and I hope in the course of the election that process is going to be improved upon. We all know that Nigeria is in dire straits. If we continue to buy votes, anyway, my own generation is about exiting politics. I just have fear for the future generation. But let me sound a note of warning. If people actually go out today to buy the votes, Nigeria is in problem.
Similar issues are raised by the candidate of the Accord Party, Akin Ogumbi.
And I accosted the lady, and I called the security agency. I said, who is the EFCC here? None. There was no EFCC in Ilugbo. So there was no EFCC to arrest. So I can't arrest. We observed it, and we can't do any arrest. The police officers there, they can't do any arrest. They were just sitting down. In fact, it was by their side. They were going to collect money for the vote that they have sold.
Meanwhile, the incumbent governor and APC candidate, Boyega Oyetola, and his wife arrive polling unit 2, Ward 1 in Borikwe local government area to cast their ballot. He shares his thoughts on the process.
The beavers in all the units are working very well. There are a few areas where we've complained that the beavers are not working, and I think they've attended to that. The turnout is massive. That shows that we are not going to have voters' apathy. I expect that the turnout will not be less than 70%. So I'm satisfied. And I must equally commend the security agencies for doing a good job. The whole thing has been very peaceful. I look forward to a credible, transparent election.
With voting over, sorting and counting is now underway as the candidates remain hopeful of clinching the top prize.
As voting ends in the Osun election and results begin to trickle in, the security of lives and property is one of the ways to measure the success or failure of the process. A preliminary assessment by observers indicates that the election has been largely peaceful. Our correspondent, Dari Ido, has this report.
From the opening of the poll to the sorting and counting, security arrangement for the election appears to have gone according to plan. Keenly contested, yet largely peaceful. That's the early assessment of the Osun State governorship election. The police, the military, Civil Defense Corps and other agencies are not found wanting, whether in comportment or presence.
The police, we've done our deployment. The military have done their deployments. Other services, you can see, as I told you earlier, what we are doing here is not a one-man show. It's not a one-man show. We have deployed personnel from all security agencies. We have deployed personnel from all law enforcement agencies. And you can see we are all going in synergy. We are all going as a team to all the points. We have all the voting points, all the polling booths. We will continue like this, at least to give advices, to check our men, see to it that they are doing what is proper.
Vote buying, the menace undermining the credibility of the process, may have read its ugly head again. Security agencies say they have made some arrests.
The only report they are talking about is vote buy, a little bit of vote buying, but they have modified their way of vote buying, and we are getting we have started arresting them.
The police had promised adequate security for law-abiding citizens with a guarantee of no breach of the security protocol, and this is to allow the people of Osun State choose a candidate of their choice. Dari Ido, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, civil society groups and frontline election monitors have been assessing the governorship election even as the final results are still being awaited. Vote inducement still remains a common bane identified, and the groups believe more should be done to apprehend culprits and tackle the monster.
The security presence were adequate. We commend the security on that, and they behave professionally. The issue of vote buying, we can say, is still rearing its head. Some of it openly, others are in a secluded way, and the security has not made any arrests. And that is one area that is a source of concern. There have been subtle, further subtle way of vote buying. But we can say that we have enjoyed peace. We have not had any case of violence that has been recorded. Unlike before the election, there were so many issues that were coming up. But we are happy to report at this point that there hasn't been a single case of violence in the election. We had issues with, maybe little issues, with persons with disability where the location of the polling unit has, has staircase and those with clutches, so people with disability are not able to climb. But we can say that where you have heavy concentration of people with disability, INEC deployed adequately, and I think they used the data of the environment to have made that.
Voter inducement, or what we call bribery of vote buying. Yaga Africa received reports of act of vote buying perpetrated by agents of APC and PDP in polling units. For instance, in PU 009, Akinlula Commercial Grammar School, Ward 01 in Ife North. The party agents strategically positioned themselves by the voting cubicle to see how voters mark their ballots. In PU 003, opposite Olomu Mosque in Osogbo, PDP party agents were seen handing out between 2,000 and 5,000 to induce voters. At open space under tree, Ojuduoke, PU 010, Iragbiji Ward 4, Borikwe local government, thugs associated with APCs threatened to stab any voter who did not vote for APC. The voters, however, insisted on casting their vote for the candidates of their choice. Yaga Africa also received a report from Ogbagba village, Ward 11, PU 013, of thugs cultists affiliated with the PDP coming to disrupt electoral process.
We'll bring you more updates on the Osun governorship elections in the course of the bulletin. In part 2, after the break, APC national chairman says the party cannot stop members bent on defecting to other parties, expresses confidence in APC emerging victorious in the 2023 general elections. That's in a moment. Join us again. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Voters in Osun State turn out in their numbers to choose a governor to pilot their affairs for the next 4 years. Poll adjudged peaceful. Some candidates in the Osun State governorship election commend conduct of the poll, while others raise concern over vote trading and its implications for the country's future. 2 Catholic priests kidnapped in Kaduna less than 2 weeks after another priest, Reverend Father Emmanuel Silas, was kidnapped but later released in Karu local government area of the state. And thousands of firefighters battle wildfires in Portugal, Spain and France amid deadly heat wave across Europe. The national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Abdullahi Adamu, has been speaking on the defections in the party. He condemned the decision by some party members, but admitted that they are free to join any other party. Senator Adamu was speaking when he paid a visit to Governor Abdullahi Sule in Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital, where he also said he's confident that his party will emerge victorious in the 2023 general elections.
The issue of defection, it is a season for it in politics, particularly in developing countries. And in Nigeria, it's no news. We don't want to lose any member. But if a member willfully wants to leave the party without recourse to good reasoning, to follow in due process, to get things done, to take a look at his grievances, if he chooses to do that, we can't force anybody to stay or leave the party. Anybody who says a member of this party is an adult. And when an adult takes a decision, either you convince him, and if the decision is not favorable to you and he does your bidding, or you leave him with God, who decides everything. As for election, winning election, we are working to win by the grace of God. We will win election. We are going to work as if it's the last election we will handle.
Meanwhile, the APC presidential candidate, Senator Bola Tinubu, has met with speakers of state houses of assembly under the party's control in the nation's capital, Abuja, as part of preparations for the 2023 general elections. Chief Tinubu assured the lawmakers of prominent roles in his campaign programs as he reiterated his choice of Senator Kashim Shettima as his running mate. He appealed to Nigerians to see beyond religion in their quest to strengthen the country's democracy and make it better.
The agreement is that Northeast will produce. So I think I recommended Kashim Shettima, that have known to be very, very qualified, as a temperament and the commitment, loyalty to the country. Patriotism dictates that. And it's very patriotic. So, Kashim Shettima has been nominated. His name is Vinek now. So, whatever little democracy noises you had, it doesn't change anything. Yes. No. We have to make Nigeria a truly democratic country. And to become a truly democratic country is to promote unity, stability, and tolerance. So I can assure you it will be all inclusive. And I'm happy. I was consistent with what I preached during the effort to gain the nomination, that our reward system will change. It started from Kashim.
In other stories, the federal government is partnering with civil society organizations to give a boost to its whistleblowing policy. The government introduced the whistleblowing policy in 2016 to encourage citizens to report financial fraud. Although the policy was welcomed by many Nigerians, government officials say the enthusiasm to report suspected cases of financial fraud has reduced.
The federal government, through the Ministry of Finance and the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, is partnering with members of the civil society organization in Abuja to reawaken citizens' consciousness about the whistleblowing policy of the government. Introduced in December 2016, the federal government whistleblowing policy promises financial incentives to citizens who report suspicious financial fraud that leads to the recovery of looted public funds. 5 years down the line, it seems the enthusiasm with which citizens report suspicious cases, which led to the recovery of looted public funds, has warned, owing to a number of factors that this conference hopes to address.
The SCP has an in-house policy on whistleblowing and an active whistleblowing desk which protects known informants against victimization.
The whistleblowing policy was hailed as about the most effective of all the anti-corruption strategies introduced by the current government. However, the interest of citizens in making disclosures began to wane and has since fallen drastically. It's against this backdrop that the Okada whistleblowing platform serves as an invaluable tool that would help fill the gap in the disclosure channels.
Between December 2016, when the whistleblowing policy was introduced, and August 2017, the federal government says there were at least 5,000 tips from citizens, which led to the recovery of millions of looted public funds. However, issues such as lack of incentives and protection of the whistleblower have weakened citizens' interest to report suspected financial fraud. As a result of this, officials say the introduction of the Corruption Anonymous whistleblowing platform is pivotal to the fight against financial fraud.
I expect those present at this launch today to be change agents that will drive our country to the path of honor by reporting and encouraging others to report same through the channels provided by the whistleblowing platforms.
I call on all stakeholders in the anti-corruption space and indeed every Nigerian to ensure that KORA works, and effectively so, for the good and development of our nation.
The anti-corruption war in Nigeria is one of those many battles that the country is yet to win. Many, however, believe strongly that if properly driven, the whistleblowing policy of the federal government can help make remarkable progress and push corruption backwards.
The president is restating his resolve to do his best for the country, especially in tackling insecurity and other developmental challenges. President Muhammadu Buhari stated this when he paid Salah homage to the Emir of Katsina, Abdul Mumuni Kabir Usman, at his palace in the state capital as he concluded his one-week Salah vacation in his hometown of Daura. He also appealed to Nigerians to exercise patience over the current situation facing the country.
President Buhari is accompanied to the Katsina Emirate Council by the state governor, Aminu Mazari, his deputy, Mane Yakubu, to pay Salah homage to the Emir as he completes his one-week Salah vacation in his hometown, Daura, Katsina State. Shortly after receiving the president and his entourage, the Emir of Katsina, Abdul Momini Kabir Usman, commends the president for converting the Federal Medical Center in Katsina into a teaching hospital, as well as his effort in tackling security challenges bedeviling the country, and appealed to him to look into the abandoned federal projects in Katsina. Speaking on the security challenge, Governor Aminu Mazari says the issue is not peculiar to Nigeria, but notes that with cooperation and prayers, the situation can be brought under control.
The entire world is currently in a dilemma. All that is required are prayers, not abuses. About a week ago, a police area commander and a police inspector were killed by bandits in Katsina State. Can you tell me that the police or soldiers aren't working? All they are after is to restore peace and normalcy.
On his part, President Buhari tells the Emir that while he is eager to go back to work in Abuja, says he's happy to meet with the Emir and his council chiefs and pledges to do his best for the country, especially on security and other issues affecting the nation. President Buhari also speaks on why he decided to be neutral during the APC primary election.
When presidential aspirants were allowed to declare their intentions to contest, over 30 people showed interest. Most of them were either ministers in my cabinet or governors, so I only encouraged the aspirants to go and try their luck. As a matter of fact, one particular governor came to meet me and asked me who they should vote for at the party convention, checking if I had a preferred candidate in the presence of my vice president, and I advised him that they should go for whoever they like, and at the end of it, they voted Tinubu as the APC presidential candidate. I hope the 2023 general elections will be as peaceful as the primary election.
During his stay in Daura, President Buhari had several engagements with the presidential candidates of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Progressive Governors Forum, APC National Working Committee led by the party's national chairman, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, as well as his classmates, family members, including the local government chairman of Daura Zone, among other dignitaries.
In the meantime, the doctors who performed the surgical operation on Vice President Yemi Osinbajo to treat the recurrent pain caused by a fracture in his leg have concluded the procedure. A statement by the medical director of Duchess International Hospital Ikeja, Lagos, Dr. Adedoyin Dosumu Ogumbi, says the operation was successful and is expected to be discharged within the next few days. According to him, the Vice President was admitted to the hospital today on account of a fracture on his right thigh bone as a result of a long-standing injury associated with the game of squash. He adds that the surgery was performed by a team of specialist doctors and consultants. 2 more priests of the Catholic Church have been kidnapped by bandits in Kaduna State. The 2 priests, Reverend Father John Chenum and Reverend Father Donatus Cleopas, were kidnapped on Friday evening in Jere local government area of the state. The latest incident comes less than 2 weeks after another priest, Reverend Father Emmanuel Silas, was kidnapped by bandits from the St. Charles Catholic Church, Zamina in Karu local government area of Kaduna State, where he was released days after. The security agencies have not confirmed yesterday's kidnapping, but the Chancellor of Kafanchan Catholic Diocese, Reverend Father Emmanuel Okolo, explained in a statement that the 2 priests were kidnapped at the Christ the King Catholic Church in Lere local government area. In order to totally eradicate female genital mutilation in the country, young people should be involved in the discussion to end the menace. And this is according to the United Nations Population Fund Deputy Director, Mrs. Erica Goldson. Speaking at an intergenerational dialogue in Abuja, Mrs. Goldson promised more support to Nigeria towards its total eradication.
The statistics tell us that 10% of 200 million women and girls that have undergone FGM globally are Nigerian. 10% of 200 million, that's a lot of women and girls. And with the current trend, approximately 14.8 million more Nigerian women and girls are at risk of mutilation by 2030. So this means that we have to accelerate our interventions, our collective action to ensure that we prevent these women and girls from experiencing FGM. We have to really connect with communities and families to change the dynamics of what is happening. We know, based on information, based on evidence, that there are no health benefits. So if anybody is telling you that we are doing FGM because it has some health benefit to the woman or to the girl, that's not true. It's a myth. And we should not let that force us to accept something that is so wrong, that violates our human rights. With this type of alliance, we can create a force that will contribute to the fulfillment of the global promise of ending FGM by 2030. Only when we come together, we'll be able to do that.
The parent of one of the children that died in the school bus incident in Okada area of Lagos is asking the police to release the body of his son while they continue with the prosecution of the case. This comes as the management of Handmaids International Catholic School says they will dialogue with parents on school policies.
Parents and teachers of Handmaids International Catholic School, Okada, Lagos, converge on the school compound to pray in one accord for the repose of the departed pupils in the tragic incident of July the 8th, 2022. The prayers over, the head teacher of the convent school, Reverend Sister Mary Okolo, explains that the life of every child matters to the management, while they re-educate the parents on the school's policies.
Combining all the school management and checking the vehicle that picks up the children up to school and back home, it's not an easy thing. Most of the time, majority of our parents bring their children to school. Majority bring them to and fro. And some arrange keke, Okada, to pick them back home. But with this that has happened, we really have to sit down for a better way to save and protect our children for such happening. And I'm very, very sure at this time we are going to lay out a written policy that will guide both the parent, the school, and these bus operators.
While the father of one of the dead pupils has retrieved the body of his child for burial, the father of the other pupil, Mr. Victor Izwora, claims the unfortunate incident was avoidable, and he is asking the police to release the body of his son to him, even if the case will continue.
I don't know whether it's by force to do it or to carry case. We don't want, want to let me bury this boy and face my life. They don't want to have done everything. They still insist. Since that day, I've been going up and down from police station to, or even if they want to continue with the case, it's none of, but my own is to bury the boy.
If it gets to that, yes, we'll involve our legal officers and see what step to take next. Whatever they want, we'll look at it. We'll look at legal implication and ramifications and all that and decide the next best step to take.
Sochima and Ugom Sinachi lost their lives by suffocation while being driven home alongside other pupils by Mr. Odunsi Olurotimi in a privately arranged school bus. Mr. Olurotimi is still in police custody.
The ban on commercial motorcycle operations in some states in the country is giving the Directorate of Road Traffic Services in the Federal Capital Territory a cause for concern. According to the Director of the service, Mr. Abdulateef Bello, the FCT may become a dumping ground for the motorcyclists. He has, however, vowed that the service is prepared to ensure that the operators stay within the areas they are restricted to. In this next report, we examine the operations of the commercial motorcyclists in the FCT.
Tricycle and motorcycle operators represent a very important economic bloc in most states, including the Federal Capital Territory, as they provide an alternative form of public transportation services for the population. In 2006, the use of motorcycles as a means of commercial transportation was restricted in the Federal Capital City because of several issues, namely traffic violations, facilitating the movement of criminals, including drug traffickers. They are only allowed to operate in satellite towns and restricted from operating in the city center as well as major highways.
If you look at these multifaceted issues, I think it requires a multi-sectorial approach to deal with the issue of the menace of Okada in the FCT.
There have been various agreements to ensure that the operations of commercial tricycles and motorcycles are restricted to designated areas, most notably the estates and suburbs. The operators have made attempts to violate the restriction order, but in most cases they are arrested, and the authorities are prepared to do more to ensure compliance.
We are introducing, the issue of rider certification for those who may be using Okada, particularly for dispatch activities.
Nevertheless, there have been divergent views by residents on the regulations of commercial motorcycles.
Most of the criminal activities happening in the federal capital revolves around those miscreants that are involved in the Okada riding.
I believe that in cases like this, before you can place a ban in some communities, certain background research needs to be done.
Lagos State is the latest to ban the operation of motorcycle operators. Previously, Rivers State had banned the operation in 2008 in Port Harcourt to curtail the activities of militants. Akwa Ibom did the same in 2011 for only Uyo, the state capital. Enugu followed in that step in the same year, 2011, though the law was enacted in 2014. Kaduna also banned commercial motorcycles in 2014 from operating in the city center. At the height of the Boko Haram attacks in Kano State, the State Road Traffic Agency announced a ban on Okada operations in 2017.
Already some of the states contiguous to FCT are already banning. So, and if we don't put it in our front burner to consider whether to review the use of Okada in FCT, variably in the next few years, FCT will be a dumping ground, and then the management of Okada will be overwhelming.
The Abuja Master Plan did not make provisions for commercial motorcycles and tricycles to operate in the capital city, and Section 42, subsection 1 of the Road Traffic Act of the FCT forbids it. However, they're increasingly gaining traction in the suburbs, and residents are hoping that a census of those rendering this special service will be captured to integrate them into the FCT transportation landscape.
Keeping our eyes on what's happening at the Osun governorship elections. Let's go live now to Osogbo, the Osun State capital, where our political correspondent, Seun Okinbaloye, is standing by with more updates.
To our studio right here at the election result analysis dashboard, where Channel Television and Yaga Africa are bringing to you some of the results that are coming into the INEC IREV portal, so you can see. By now, almost all the results have come into the INEC IREV reporter, but of course you can see how the graph is coming through. We're hoping that we'll reopen this studio at the top of the hour, that at 11 p.m. and our ERAD analysts are also on the ground. What a lot of Nigerians are concerned and are worried about is when will the results coming? How fast can INEC get to announce the winner in this election? Well, if what we saw in Ekiti is anything to go by, it does look like we might not be up for a long night, because as far as we know, most of the results in the 3,763 local government areas are already in, and you can see the blue chart there tells you that almost all the results are in. But basically, one of the things that are important for us to note here is how this election is going. Basically, who is getting what, who is leading, who is in the run, how much of a neck and neck this election is turning. A lot of things that we cannot call now because INEC is empowered to be able to announce the result. But in the end, what is sacrosanct now, what is important is that the people of Osun State have made a call. They voted, and their vote is counting. And Nigerians are watching how these will all play out in the end, because what is paramount is who becomes the governor of Osun State for the next 4 years. And the result is going to be crystal clear at the end of the day. We're monitoring what is happening at the INEC headquarters in Oshogbo, Osun State, for us to get a clear picture of who the winner of this election will be out of the 30 local government areas of Osun State. Melinda, it's clear to me that it might not be a long night, but we have to tarry a while at the end of the day for us to get a clear picture in the scheme of things. So stick with Channel Television, because we have right here for you what this election is shaping out to be, how the map is changing in the color codes of the political parties. The patterns, the trends are all here. Just stick it with Channel Television at 11 p.m. We'll be right back here at the ERAD studio in conjunction with Yaga Africa. It's back to you, Melinda.
Our political correspondent, Shion Okinbaloye, reporting live from Oshogbo, the Osun State capital. So do stay with Channel Television for all the updates regarding the Osun governorship elections. In Imo State, the government is assuring residents that the completion of the second balloon technology drainage system along works layout in Owerri, the state capital, would check some of the flooding challenges in some parts of the metropolis. Speaking to journalists during an inspection of some flood-prone areas, Governor Hope Uzodinma assures the residents that the ongoing construction of the new drainage system in strategic places across the city will address the situation.
You recall the last flood incident that happened at Akwakuma. I know it's a combination of so many factors: blockage of the existing drain system, and then also our inability to complete the new drainage system also as designed. So I think what we are doing now is to take care of all the floodings, and by the time the existing manholes are all opened up and deseated properly, and then with the new construction going on, I think Owerri will be flood-free. Some people built already illegally on the drainage, and as a result of that, the water has no way to pass. I've already directed the general manager Entraco to do the needful so that we can allow the waterway for water to pass.
Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Teniola Shobowale has those details.
Thanks a lot, Melinda. Welcome to Business News. Officials of the Nigeria Export Promotion Council and the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency have announced plans that will allow for more penetration of Nigerian products to the West African market. According to officials of both agencies, the plan is aimed at assisting owners of small businesses access the West African market by leveraging on the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and the Trade House initiative of the NEPC, which offers opportunities for improving the contribution of the non-oil sector to the nation's economy.
In Nigeria, there's a huge market and a trade hub that cannot be ignored by international business communities and investors. Therefore, Nigerian SMEs should also take advantage of every available step to package their products in line with national standards and take advantage of every global platform to showcase such products to boost its accessibility worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, the MOU to be signed between NEPC and SMEDA today is another way to show the general public the level of cooperation and synergy among government-related agencies. It is my strong belief that this initiative will help in flooding the West African and African market at large with quality made in Nigerian products, and in turn increase forex inflow into Nigeria. And by extension, this will also generate employment and develop our local industries. This has become very necessary in view of the activation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. And because of that, we cannot fold our arms and wait until our market is taken over by foreign products before penetrating their markets with our own products. We must leverage on our competitive advantage of made in Nigerian products in the African market, especially the West African region.
Trading activity at the forex market was mostly negative this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets fell by 61.25% to $225.24 million as at July the 15th. A further breakdown of trading results shows that total value of transactions at the FX spot market also fell by 59.51% to $204.74 million. While transactions at the FX derivatives market declined by 72.88% to $20.49 million. On the other hand, the local currency appreciated by 0.1% to 423 naira 85 kobo against the dollar at the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange window of the forex market, in contrast to 424 naira 45 kobo recorded last week. From there, we move to the equities market, which ended the holiday-shortened second trading week of July with a sharp rebound in 1 out of 3 trading sessions. The market's benchmark all-share index closed the week up 1.27%, following the 1.71% gain recorded on Friday, which was largely driven by telco giant Airtel Africa. At the same time, the total value of equities on the NGX rebounded by 354 billion naira, or 1.28%, despite losses from components across 4 out of the 5 key sectors of the market. Academy Press tops the gainers this week as it led 19 other gainers with a 16.93% increase on its share price. Fidson led a pack of 21 other losers, down by 21.58%, while the trio of GT Coke, Haverton and UBA were major contributors to 504.32 million total volume of shares traded this week. And at the unlisted securities market, activities at the NASD OTC exchange ended the second week of July in the red, as both the security index and market capitalization recorded a 0.22% decline. At the same time, the NASD market capitalization dropped by 0.2 trillion naira to close at 1.02 trillion naira this week. The total value of securities traded during the week decreased by 96.64%. As the market recorded a total of 21.4 billion naira in value against 637.84 million naira in the previous week. Similarly, total volume of securities traded on the exchange dropped by 91.50% to 33.95 million units, while deals fell by 66.34% to 34 this week. The duo of Capital, Bancor and Verizon Campina Ramco were top advances in price value, while Central Securities Clearance System and Niger Delta Exploration and Production were top decliners for the week. Ahead of its monetary policy decision meeting of the central bank set to hold in Lagos on Monday and Tuesday next week, members of the MPC have held a retreat. According to Central Bank Governor Godwin, the retreat, which is tagged monetary policy implementation in a digitally evolving developing economy, would enable members of the financial sector to share their experiences and thoughts on these emerging issues, with the objective of collating some implementable measures to address the impact of digitalization on the Nigerian economy.
Our appraisal process at this retreat will be at looking at whether or not we have done well or done the right things in the last couple of years, adopting our own homegrown policies, and to conclude that in the light of existing global challenges confronting all economies, should we continue to do what we have done before, or select the good aspects of what we have done before and then think about how to adopt new ones in the light of the global challenges confronting us and indeed also confronting us domestically, with a view to coming up with the right tools with which we would be making our monetary policy decisions going forward.
And that's Business News Tonight. I'm Teniola Shiboale. It's back to Melinda for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Tenny. For what's up in the world of sports, here is Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Melinda. Sebastian Baez is through to the Swedish Open final after a straight sets victory over the world number 7 Andrei Rublev. Baez produced a near flawless performance to beat Rublev 6-2, 6-4 in 1 hour and 16 minutes. The 21-year-old Argentinian will take on compatriot Francisco Cerundolo in Sunday's final. Meanwhile, Argentina's Francisco Cerundolo delivered an all-round game showing as he defeated seed Pablo Carreño Busta 6-3, 6-2 in the Swedish Open semi-final. Cerundolo will now compete in his second ATP Tour final on Sunday. Victory in his maiden head-to-head meeting against Carreño Busta lifts him to number 32 on the ATP rankings. Bundesliga giants Bayern Munich FC introduced the season's new arrivals to their excited fans during the team presentation today. Midfielder Ryan Gravenberch and defender Nusser Mazraoui joined the Bavarians from Ajax Amsterdam, and striker Sadio Mane as signed from Liverpool FC. Now, the team presentation included a training session that was overseen by the Bayern coach Julian Nagelsmann. Kenyan marathon runner Lawrence Cherono has been provisionally suspended by the Athletics Integrity Unit ruling him out of the current World Championships in Oregon. The AIU, which oversees integrity issues in international athletics, including doping, said a sample collected from Toronto tested positive for a banned substance on the 2022 World Anti-Doping Agency prohibited list as a metabolic modulator. Toronto provided his sample during an out-of-competition test on May the 23rd and was informed of the adverse analytical finding when he arrived in Eugene on Thursday. And that's sports news. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Ayo. Thousands of firefighters are battling wildfires in Portugal, Spain and southwestern France in the grip of a heat wave that shows no sign of abating. Officials have issued health warnings as temperatures are expected to top 40 degrees Celsius in parts of Europe as a slow-moving high-pressure area brings scorching air up from North Africa.
Wildfires have spread further in southwest France as Europe swelters in a heat wave. More than 1,000 firefighters are battling to control the blazes, fanned by scorching heat, tinderbox conditions and strong winds. More than 12,200 people have been evacuated from the region. Wildfires are also raging in Portugal and Spain. Since Tuesday, temperatures have soared to 47 degrees Celsius in Portugal and above 40 degrees Celsius in Spain, leaving the countryside bone dry and fueling the fires. Officials have issued health warnings for the heat wave, which is expected to continue in the coming days. According to reports, more than 300 people have died from the heat in Spain and Portugal so far. Meanwhile, higher temperatures are also expected in Britain in the coming days. With a national emergency declared, the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, says extra measures are being put in place to deal with any increased demand on the health services.
Well, the clear message to the public is to take the sensible steps in terms of water, shade and cover that many people are aware of. That's the best way of mitigating against the heat. We're asking people to keep an eye out for their neighbours and those who may be vulnerable. But we're also putting in additional contingency support as well.
Experts say that climate change is making heat waves more likely, as well as more intense and lasting longer. The world has already warmed about 1.1 degrees Celsius since the latter half of the 18th century, and experts predict that temperatures will keep rising unless governments make steep cuts to emissions.
And the main news again. Voters in Osun State today turned out in their numbers to choose a governor to pilot their affairs for the next 4 years. 15 candidates took part in the election, which held across 3,763 polling units. The exercise was adjudged peaceful. Also today, some candidates in the Osun State governorship election commended the conduct of the poll, while others raised concern over vote trading and its implications for the country's future. And thousands of firefighters today battled wildfires in Portugal, Spain and France amid deadly heat wave across Europe. That's the news at 10 tonight, but do stay with Channels Television as we continue our coverage of the Osun State governorship election.